this guy only did 40 handstand push-ups, and so they were going to give him a major penalty and reduce or increase the time on his workout. But the way that it is that workout, not many people finish the workout.
Myself included.
To begin with. So even adding a major penalty onto a timed workout where not many people even finished and got a timed score, it wasn't really that bad of a penalty. Whereas, like, for example, on 19.1, all the girls that got major penalties on that workout, they're out of the games now because there was more room, I guess, for error. But come to find out, so that was the first story that was released. And come to find out, there were many other things that were kind of happening in his video. So we kind of heard through the grapevine that it's not.
I will drain it now. Chef Rufio making pasta.
This is his first time in the kitchen. Just kidding, kind of.
She's so mean. Okay, what were you saying?
That he probably made an innocent mistake. That was his second go around, and that he might have missed the reps innocently, and that what they did was they took his first video where he did complete 50 reps and was apparently legit, and they added a major penalty to that one. So instead of taking his score with the 40 reps, they took his score where he did apparently all the reps and did the penalty to that. So after hearing that, I was like, okay, like, I could kind of understand where maybe you could miscount the reps. You know, whatever. It's a weird mistake. It's like not very good. There's a lot of things I think in CrossFit video review that are very, you know, like, it's a judgment call, you know, like, like, it didn't quite look like that on the video, but, you know, the judge was there and maybe they had a better angle or whatever. But these things were like, you either step over the line or you don't. And like that.
I think what's hard for, like, a majority of people that are doing the Open, because you have to think hundreds of thousands of people do the Open, and we're all told that we have to reach this certain standard, and every movement in the Open can be challenging for somebody. And so when we see that these, like, freak athletes do the work and show very little care for the standard, I think it upsets people very easily.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, I did it fairly, and why should this guy get a free pass to not do it fairly, or have kind of like his video is just kind of a blatant disregard for the details of the standard. And what's frustrating is when I watched his video, I was like, the guy shows a good capacity. Like, there's no doubt that he is a good athlete. I've never trained with him, so I don't know. But it just, like, it seeds the question of, like, did he do this in all of his other videos? Did he not really care about how well he moved and everything else? And so I think it just, like, creates, like, distrust around the system. And it's hard to make that assessment based on, like, one video that we see. Yeah. Whereas, like, CrossFit's watching hundreds of videos.
Yeah.
And so they have a different perspective.
Yeah,
and I think,
that's
like,
true. I was thinking about that too.
Like, I think we were kind of talking about it earlier today, Ali and I. It's like we're not here to, like, shit on Devin Ford or, like, make this, like, the calling out of, like, CrossFit's not doing a good job at blah blah. We're just like, here's what we're thinking about. Like, here's what's going through my mind. I saw a ton of people attack this guy, Devin.
He's an easy target because he's, like, the reason why all this conversation is coming up. But I think the bigger underlying problem is the system, really, that they have to validate these scores. And as an athlete trying to qualify for the games, you know, that you want to hope that everybody is meeting the standards and putting in as much detail and care for those standards as you are. And ultimately, yeah, probably the best athletes are going to make it no matter what. But then there's all these kind of question marks that you have in your head of, like, well, if this person isn't holding the standard, what is everybody else doing that we don't have the video for? And am I kind of being left out am I hurting myself by holding myself to these standards. And I think a lot of athletes, I'm not the type of person to be like, oh, everybody's cheating, so I'm just going to cheat. But like, I think most athletes are holding themselves to that standard, but it just leaves room then for that question. And especially for this guy, he's going to go to the games.
I think you bring up a good point, and Alex Parker brought this up too. She put up a post that said, like, how many other videos are out there, and I think that's just like, there's creating a distrust of what's going on behind the curtain.
Yeah.
When it's in front of the curtain, like when you watch athletes do the open announcement, for example, you see the judges being very strict. I remember watching some athletes not be able to get over the handstand push-up line because this was a new standard and they weren't really sure how it was going to go, but they were upholding the standard. So that was what we saw, and that's like, okay, that's what we have to uphold now. Mm-hmm. They didn't just say, well, his arms are locked out, close enough, let's go.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, we also see regionals in the games where you see judges make judgment calls all the time, and if it's borderline, sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing videos that have very non-borderline movements, like not doing all the reps. Not
stepping over the line.
Clearly not stepping over the line, not matter of camera angle or anything.
Right.
And that getting a lesser penalty. So I think what's creating is like this distrust of like, are athletes behind the scenes doing the appropriate work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, like the capacity argument, I can see where CrossFit I can see their side on that. And as an athlete, like if you had a video, I'm sure I would again hope that most athletes are trying to uphold that standard, but at the same time trying to be as competitive as possible. So it's easier in a regional type live event because the feedback is instant. It's like, okay, you're riding that line too high, you have to fix it right now. Whereas if you do a video, it's too late to kind of fix it. I can see where it's not the same as regionals, so it can be treated exactly the same way, but at the same time, when there's people blatantly cheating and just having a disregard to the standard, it's kind of like, yeah, maybe you have the capacity, but you're not acting like a professional athlete, and so you shouldn't get to compete like a professional athlete.
I mean, yeah, we compete in the sport of fitness too, and we're trying to make a playing field as even as possible where I can compete with somebody that I'm not in the same room as and make that happen. If you're playing football, like, there's dirty plays that happen all the time. And yes, like, that's part of the sport. You're trying to get away with certain things that maybe the ref didn't see. And I think as you grow into a professional athlete, you accept that that's part of the game. But I think as a CrossFitter, like, that's not part of the game.
That's not part of the game.
It's not just trying to get away with shit and like hope that you can make it to the games or whatever. Like, but unfortunately, there's probably a number of people out there who are perfectly content doing this.
And I think that this feeling comes up when you talk about athletes that get popped for using performance enhancing drugs too. It's like, those athletes will usually come out and be like, oh, well, like, I thought all the top athletes were doing it, or I know all the top athletes are doing it, so that's why I did it, to make it an even playing field. But again, as an athlete trying to make it to the games and be competitive in the sport, I just can't guest star by Rari. I just can't believe that, I just won't believe it, I guess, is the better way to say it.
Is like, is this creating a bigger systemic problem for CrossFit? Like, is this going to demotivate certain athletes to want to compete in this sport because they feel like, well, it's not really just that fair? At the end of the day, like, when we come back to, like, CrossFit, we've been having a lot of talks about this just between Ali and I. Like, it's like, what do you do to make the system better? What do you do to try to beat the system where you don't have to worry about these guys who are cheating, the Devin Fords? It's like, you just become a fitter athlete and you stop having to worry about all these other people around you.
Totally. And obviously, like, I'm a female, so I'm not even competing against Devin Ford. and neither of us were on the cusp of making it anyways, but it's more so of the integrity, I think, of the sport, and just also the what's the word, like how they've handled this is not consistent with how they've handled it in the past, nor does it really align with what most people think to be fair. You know, like, you see this video of this guy, and it's just like, well, he's not doing any of the standards. Like, what's the point of having the standards if you don't even have to do it to make it to the games?
I think you brought up a good point, is like the inconsistency of certain things, and athletes have touched on this too, where they do feel like there's like a golden boy in CrossFit where it like can't be touched. The Brooke Wells discussion that kind of happened before. I mean,
but again, like, I think that Brooke Wells situation, it's like she wasn't blatantly not doing the reps. Like, yeah, the movement standards might have not been met in her, or it was questionable, or her video was blurry or whatever, but like, it wasn't clear as black and white as like, you're not doing the reps. Like, and so I can see, again, going to back what I was saying before, I can see that side of it. It's like, okay, this athlete has proven herself at the games level time and time again, and it's like, it's probably not great reps, but I also don't think that you should just be finished if you have anything like questionable, because I think it's not on the floor, like I was saying, at regionals, so you can't be like, no, that's no rep, you have to change it right now. It's like, it's in the past.
It's hard because then, like, where do you draw the line, and how do you be consistent in a system where we're almost saying, well, in that case it's okay, in this case it's not okay. Right. So it's leaving CrossFit to make those judgment calls. Yeah. And like, the person who's getting hurt most by this we were talking about is Noah Olsen, because if Devin Ford doesn't make it, or if one athlete doesn't make it, Patrick Vellner gets in, and if Patrick Vellner gets in through the Open, then Noah goes through Wadapalooza. Yeah. And so he's the person who's most directly affected by this and impacted by this. And
that's not somebody who's just gonna like go to the games and, you know, lose out on the first day. Like, he's a person that has proven many times, you know, obviously I'm his friend, but just consistency at the games. Like, he's been in the top 10, top 5 many times. So,
but I would argue that shouldn't be factored into
it shouldn't
whether
be a factor,
or not
but
Devin
I think
Ford's penalty is more or less.
Yes, I agree with that. But the point is that we were talking about this before, that people would. It was okay that it was kind of a blurry standard, because people would then go to regionals and then they would get weeded out and they would get exposed. But now it does kind of mean something, because that line is so high and so competitive that now people who, you know, might deserve to be there, if it affects them, and it just trickles down, and again, questions
100%.
the whole integrity of the system. If any sport has the least amount of genetic type, it's CrossFit, because there's many types of events, but there's naturally going to be people who just fall outside of that.
I think what we like about CrossFit is there aren't weight classes. It's just like, it's very cut and dry. You're just like, you're either the fittest or you're not.
And not every athlete is exactly the same body type or height or weight.
And the way it is right now, there's a lot of people trying to be the fittest on earth. And I think that's really like what CrossFit's focused on. Yeah. I think they're focused on trying to find the fittest on earth. Yep. And I don't think they're so concerned about what happens in the middle.
But that's what I'm saying, is like, now it does matter.
Well, I don't think they care, even if Devin Ford goes to the games.
No, but that's what I'm saying,
shits
is
the bed. I don't think they care.
But Noah Olsen's not going to be there. And he's probably going to be there with sanctioned events. But I'm saying, because the competition is so tight now for the Open, it literally could affect who's at the CrossFit Games. Brent Fikowski, like, he didn't make it.
Yeah, but like, Brent knows that his best opportunity probably isn't in the Open, and I think CrossFit would say there's plenty of opportunities. In fact, there's 15 opportunities for these athletes to go and qualify in other means besides the Open.
But I think that argument of the fittest are still going to get there is like, maybe not quite. I don't know. Maybe it is, because it's hard to get a feeling on what the season's going to be like, because it's not completed yet. But
I think CrossFit only cares about two people right now. They care about Matt Fraser and Tia Claire Toomey, because right now they're proven to be the fittest on earth for multiple years reigning. and both of them qualified very early on in the season.
Yeah.
And both of them qualified through the Open. Like I'm not putting down Noah at all. He's obviously a very fit athlete.
Right. And I'm just
and
talking about Noah.
Obviously has a chance to
because I know him
to threaten the podium.
Right.
But if he hasn't proven himself in the Open, if he hasn't proven himself in something else, like I don't think CrossFit's gonna care that like this Devin guy got in above him. I think CrossFit's gonna say, go and use those other opportunities and prove yourself there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, I mean, not to like put anything on Noah, I think that's what Noah's gonna do. Like he's gonna go to Italy this weekend. Yeah. He's probably gonna win. He's probably gonna go to the CrossFit Games, and it's not gonna matter.
Right.
What sucks about it is that he had to go.
Yeah.
Right? Is that this happened? There was somebody who maybe made some reps that weren't good, maybe didn't, and maybe this was all an accident. And I'm sure, you know, at the end of the day, Noah probably would still go and do this Italian showdown competition, even if he got an email from CrossFit saying, "Hey, you're in."
Yeah.
Way to adapt and survive, and in some cases, like CrossFit, they're giving up a lot of responsibility of hosting the competitions, and they're probably giving up a lot of responsibility in needing to review these videos and at least be so detailed that they could spend the time and resources to review all 5 videos.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? I mean, in an ideal system, all of those athletes that qualified, all 5 videos would have been requested and reviewed. They don't have the resource or manpower to do it.
Yeah, I totally get that, and I agree, and I think I'm kind of still like torn on like my feelings, because it's like, well, at the end of the day, the best are still going to be the best. The rest of the people are gonna get in through sanctioned events, and some twirly pasta, aka what's it called?
I gotta look at the box. I forgot.
Got the box. Twirly pasta, aka cavatappi. If you've never had the Banza, that sounds better. The Banza pasta, it's really good. It's made out of chickpeas, so you got some extra protein.
Oh, I think I know what I was gonna say. It's like,
we'll get back to you.
It's like CrossFit wants to survive as a business, and everybody wants CrossFit to survive as a business so that we can continue having the CrossFit Games and continue being able to showcase who is the fittest on earth, and so that athletes like Ali and I continue to play the sport that we love. The problem is that we all feel like we have an ownership in CrossFit. We all feel like CrossFit has a responsibility to uphold this like standard that's way up here. And CrossFit's just trying to say like, look, we don't have these resources. We don't have the like perfect to make the perfect system. And what we're doing is we're making best of the resources that we have and the system that's available, and we're trying to find the fittest on earth. I think we expect more of CrossFit because we care about it so much, but we're not like, I'm not paying CrossFit money every year to survive. Like CrossFit doesn't owe anything to me. I pay them $20 a year actually for my open registration and regionals registration, RIP. But like, we expect that like, oh, CrossFit should do this, CrossFit should do that, CrossFit should hold these regional events, and it's like, why? You know, like, do you know what I mean?
Very good things. And then we've got some chicken sausage, some spinach, some broccoli for health.
Do you want me to cut this? Just one?
Yeah, you can cut another one. And then, I talked about this before, but it's so good. This Angelic Bakehouse burger buns. But you can have them for garlic bread, like we're going to.
It's angelic.
Yes.
Wodapalooza, Dubai, they tried to emulate these things. When you look at those competitions, like there's a reason why there's 10 lanes in every field in all these competitions. There's a reason why the lanes look the same, that like you start on one end and you finish on the other end. It's because they're just trying to emulate what CrossFit made, and CrossFit made a really good system. They made a really good event at regionals, and they continue to use a very similar style of that event at the CrossFit Games. And so like that worked. And so now CrossFit's like, okay, cool, we laid the framework for you. Now you guys need to go out and start running your own events. And maybe we'll see some events that like go against the grain, go against the norm. It's not you start over here and end over there, and the first person to that side of the room wins, and you got to do all this other stuff in the middle. Maybe someone will come up with something that's completely different. I think Wodapalooza made an event that was kind of cool, where it was like called the Gauntlet, and it was like this like hour of working out, of like first you did one workout, then you rested a couple minutes, then you did another workout, then you did a third workout, and then you had a 1 rep max in there, right? And it was like all within 1 hour time frame. Like, why haven't we seen something like that at a sanctional event? Like something where it's like, you guys are just gonna go in for an hour, you're gonna do 4 workouts. It's always you go in, you do 1 workout, it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then you get out. And then you got a couple hours rest. Like, these competitions are definitely showcasing what regionals was.
Yeah.
And now CrossFit is saying, like, get creative. We don't care who you send to us for the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
We're gonna test them and we'll see if they're fit to be fittest on earth. But I think CrossFit's leaving the door open to people who say,
That's a good point.
you know, like...
Side note, we're about to pop these in the Brava. If you don't know what the Brava is.
There's nothing to really stop, like, someone who's running a sanctional event to have every event be swimming or every event be gymnastics. I don't think there's any... I think they would get a lot of backlash from the CrossFit community, but, like, I don't think CrossFit would say, we're removing your sanctional. I think CrossFit is literally just like, send us athletes. We're going to take all these athletes at the games. We're going to put them through a series of tests, and we'll come out with who's the fittest. And it kind of goes back to 2007 when the CrossFit Games started, was you could literally walk up to the ranch, sign a waiver, and you were a CrossFit Games athlete. That was 2007. That's 12 years ago. It's like, it's not that long ago that was how the sport was run. And like, now we have this expectation that, like, if you're a games athlete, you need to meet these 10 qualification standards based on our perspective of you. And I don't think CrossFit cares. Would you agree?
Yes. I would agree, yeah.
I think CrossFit is just really like, okay, cool. Like, you want to prove yourself to be the fittest on earth. Now you take our test. This is the CrossFit Games, and we will determine if you're the fittest on earth or not. If you were to think of it right now, I mean, obviously we don't know how many resources that CrossFit has. We don't know what's available, but are there other ways that we haven't thought of that CrossFit could?
I think the biggest thing that we're talking about, going back to it, which we've touched on a few times, is this one instance going to make a difference in anything? No. But if the community and athletes perceive that the qualification video review process is a joke, that's where it gets. Can you wash that?
Try it.
Wash.
Oh yeah.
Wash. That's where it gets sticky, because then if 100 athletes now think that the video review process is a joke and they're just going to cut the line and do that on the next open, then that's where it creates a bigger problem. This one isolated instance, it doesn't really matter, because the fittest people are going to get to the games and the fittest person's probably going to win.
When I think of like, what system can they put in place to make this better, like, I hear a lot of people complaining like, that's not fair, he shouldn't be allowed in the games, this isn't right. Like, there's, and everybody always feels different about each one of these things that came out. Like, no one complained that Rich Froning didn't do 3 double unders every time, because they gave him a penalty and they were like, yeah, he's Rich Froning, he's probably pretty legit.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden this guy comes out and doesn't do 10 reps and people are like shitting on him. And it's like, you can't have, and it's totally different. 3 double unders are totally different than 10 strict handstand push-ups. But I think like, how do you, if you're CrossFit, how do you create a black and white system that like penalizes people evenly or fairly, or makes it feel justified every time? And I don't know if there is. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't think of, I haven't seen anybody make recommendations for a better system, and nothing comes to my mind either of like, yeah, I guess you need to have people video their workout and then submit that video for review, and then we need to come to some sort of decision of, if that athlete doesn't meet the standard, do we think that they're still a pretty fit athlete that they should come to our event?
Yeah.
Because if you make it so cut and dry that like, oh, nope, no rep there, they're not coming to the games anymore. We talked about that. Yeah. It's like, is that the right call?
Right.
Then are you finding the fittest person? But then we're making the same argument of like, yeah, they should go to a sanctional event, and they should do a sanctional if they fuck up the open.
Yep.
And maybe there is like, maybe CrossFit does just need to be more like, maybe I'm talking myself into that. Like they need to be more like, this is the line. If you cheat or don't meet the standard, you're out of the open. Go to a sanctional and figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of a solution other than, you know, the system that they have. I think it does catch some things, and I don't think that it will mess up to the point where some, like the right people aren't or are there. But again, I think it just can shift the mindset of the community and a lot of the majority of the athletes that are competing, which would be a bigger problem. So I think that, yeah, maybe I read something somewhere that like if you got assessed a major penalty that they should have to review the rest of your videos, which I'm like, whoa, cat fight. Which I think that was kind of, that's not a bad idea, because it localizes, okay, like we need to check out this person because they had some sketchy stuff. But then it also can give you a better picture of what this athlete is across 5 workouts versus 1 workout or 2 workouts.
That's a great suggestion, I think, because based on what I saw in Devin Ford's video, I would like to see the rest of his videos. Yeah. I would just want to know, did he hold himself to a good standard on everything else? Or
yeah,
is
if
he
you have a
consistently
major
do that?
penalty then on every workout, it's like, okay, even if you have the capacity or whatever, like, you shouldn't get to go compete at the game.
But then, like, going back to, like, do we have this very fine line where if you cross over that line, CrossFit says, nope, you're not coming. Then you get into the athletes that, like, were, like you were talking about the females, like, there was kind of a gray area in their squat depth. And,
right.
Like, some of those athletes now aren't coming to the games. They got penalized by that, and they've put a whole year into this. And
for potentially
they're saying,
a video angle.
Yeah,
you know
they're
what I
saying
mean?
it's
Like,
a video angle.
Are you kidding me? But I don't know enough about the athletes that got penalized, and I didn't really watch any of their videos. But if that's true, that's like, that's crazy to me.
It's just sad. Like there's
I can
there's
feel
heartbreak
it.
And there's
I can feel it as an athlete, like who's gotten my videos reviewed for regionals. You know, like there is, you know, that you did your best and you know we're honest, at least in always in my case. But then there's still a little bit of you that's like, well, what if they don't think so? You know, so there is kind of that. I can definitely feel for those athletes that got penalized. But
so it's hard. Like we feel bad for some athletes. We feel the heartbreak. We understand. We sympathize with them. And then we also villainize other athletes. And I feel like for the community to try to be like, this is what CrossFit should have done. They should have held up this athlete and they should have destroyed this athlete. Like I don't know if that's CrossFit's responsibility. I think it's what we feel like is their responsibility. But I don't know if
right.
If I mean we all want them to be fair, but how are they supposed to know what's fair, what's not?
Here's some good news.
Real good.
This dinner.
I agree. I think we've kind of bludgeoned this topic of conversation for long enough.
Yes. That's the good news, is the dinner.